This full-length, unabridged presentation of the Monstrous Mechanical Metal Munching Moon Mice Mystery starring Rocky and Bullwinkle was requested by my friends at Pintos R Us. Located in Rincon, Puerto Rico, at Pintos R Us, your family can release their inner explorer with both scheduled and custom trail rides for every age and equestrian skill level.
A thunder of jets in an open sky, a streak of gray, and a cheerful...
A loop, a whirl, and a vertical climb, and once again you'll know it's time for the adventures of Rocky and Bullwinkle and friends.
Starring that supersonic speedster, Rocket J. Squirrel, with his pal Bullwinkle the Moose, and a host of others.
Hurry, Bullwinkle! The show's about to start!
I'm coming as fast as I can.
Wave to the people!
Yay!
Now what are you doing?
Signing autographs. Let's see. John Smith.
But your name is Bullwinkle!
I know, but that's hard to spell.
We're gonna have a lot of fun! Come on and join us!
Sure, there's always room for one more.
Our story opens today in the quaint little hamlet of Frostbite Falls, Minnesota, the only town in the United States with more TV sets than people. The reason for this astounding fact is simple. This is the home of one of television's most sparkling personalities, Rocket J. Squirrel.
Take off your hat when you mention that name, mister.
We love Rocky.
He put Frostbite Falls on the map.
See, it's right here, under this period.
That's a fly speck, Quincy.
Oh, yeah. Well, I left my magnifying glass to home.
Hush! It's time for Rocky and his friends.
Well, of course, in Frostbite Falls, that's the magic word. And every TV set in town went on. In homes and restaurants and playpens and regular for-real pens. Of course, all the TV sets need antennas, and the rooftops of Frostbite Falls are a riotous tangle of TV antennas of every shape and description. Or, at any rate, they were. Until one terrible day when...
Bah! The TV is bust!
Oh, nonsense, Carlisle. It just needs a little adjusting.
But no, the TV set was bust.
Come on, we'll dash over to the neighbor's house and look at their... Ooh! You come to our house?
Yeah, our TV is bust.
Great gobs of go, it's an epidemic.
Sure enough, the panic-stricken citizens soon discovered that the entire town was without television. Quickly, they summoned their hero, Rocky the Flying Squirrel, and his pal, Bullwinkle the Moose.
What's that, Rock?
It's a summons.
What does that mean?
It means someone's in trouble.
I should have knowed.
Rocky, the whole town's TV is bust.
But just then, the sharp-eyed squirrel made a startling discovery.
Hey, look up there. There's your answer.
What do you mean, Rock? There's nothing there.
That's just what I mean.
It is?
Where are all the TV antennas?
Hey, that's right.
Sure enough, there was nothing left of that forest of television antennas but a lot of metal stumps.
Our lives are ruined.
Well, they were certainly changed anyway, for with no television in Frostbite Falls, the citizens had to find other things to do of an evening. They had to resort to such outmoded pastimes as taffy pulling, front porch swinging, jigsaw puzzles, and old maid. Some few citizens were even seen reading books.
We gotta do something, Rock.
Okay, let's get those antennas back up.
And in a dazzling aerial display, Rocky, with an armload of new antennas, zoomed low over the rooftops and speared them into place. But when Bullwinkle climbed up to fasten the wires on...
Heavens do, Betsy. They're all down again.
It was true. In spite of Rocky's efforts, there wasn't one antenna left standing in all of Frostbite Falls.
Well, there's only one thing to do, Bullwinkle.
Buy a book?
No, see the sheriff.
And a little later, Sheriff Wright was on the scene to examine the evidence.
What I'd like to know is where would anybody put that many antennas?
What I'd like to know is what would anybody want them for?
What I'd like to know is what's happening to Peabody and Sherman.
Yeah. Well, let me see how the job was done. Uh-oh.
Were they sawed off, Sheriff?
Nope.
Were they chopped off?
Nope.
Were they just busted off?
Nope.
Then
I don't know quite how to say this, boys.
try it in English first.
Those TV antennas was all bitten off.
Bitten?
You mean like with teeth?
Yes, like with teeth. Big, sharp, wicked teeth.
Who or what lies behind this frightening fact? Maybe we'll find out next time in Bullwinkle Bites Back, or Nothing But the Tooth. Last time, you remember, the citizens of Frostbite Falls had the shock of their lives when every TV antenna in town mysteriously disappeared. Their reaction was instantaneous.
Our lives are ruined.
Some people refused to admit that the terrible thing had happened and sat doggedly before their sets anyway. Others resorted to ingenious methods of substitution.
So remember, friends, get Johnson's foist binders in the red and blue box.
Oh, that's great, Henry. Now do the one about the dog food.
Still others didn't notice any change at all.
Love these sea stories.
But the most mysterious thing of all was the way the antennas had disappeared.
You may not believe this, boys, but every one of them was bitten off.
Bitten off? You mean there's some metal-munching monster loose in this town?
Now, let's not jump to conclusions, boys. There's probably some logical explanation.
Sure make a better story my way.
And it looked as if Bullwinkle might be right at that. They were watched by a pair of sinister eyes.
Well, whoever or whatever it was didn't leave a clue. I'll need some help on this case.
That's me.
Somebody who's brave.
That's me.
And trustworthy.
That's me.
And smart as a whip.
That's him.
Any ideas, Rocky?
You bet, Sheriff. I think we ought to set a trap.
Rocky, you're right as rain.
And twice as wet.
And in a very short time, the sheriff and our boys had set a trap in the form of one special king-size TV antenna, complete with instructions.
Now, we'll just stand guard here all night and see what happens.
Right, Sheriff. You take the first watch, Bullwinkle.
Okay. Oh, I'll take the first watch and you take the wristwatch and I'll do the...
And as night fell, the vigilant moose patrolled his lonely post while Rocky and the sheriff dozed nearby. Then, just about midnight...
Halt! Who's there? I didn't quite catch the name. Here, let me strike a match.
And in the glow of the match, an unbelievable sight met Bullwinkle's eyes.
Heck, it's just a mouse. An ordinary 6-foot metal mouse. 6 foot? Now, I wonder...
But Bullwinkle didn't wonder long, for the strange intruder raised a heavy metal fist and... Daylight was dawning when Rocky and the sheriff opened their eyes.
Hey, is it my turn to... Hokey smoke!
Godfrey, the antenna's gone.
Sure enough, the decoy antenna had been bitten off to a tiny stump, and there beside it lay the mighty moose, sound asleep.
Bullwinkle, how could you do it?
What? How could I do what?
You went to sleep at your post. How could you do it?
Easy, I just closed my eyes. Hey, wait, I didn't go to sleep. I was attacked and put to sleep.
You were attacked?
No, attacked.
Who did it?
It was a... Now, wait a minute, Bullwinkle. Will the sheriff believe you saw a 6-foot metal mouse? No. Will Rocky believe it? No. Do you believe it? No. Well, then...
Tell me who did it, Bullwinkle, and we'll...
I'm sorry, Rock. I can't tell you.
Can't tell me? Your best friend, your old buddy boy.
Sorry, I just can't. Okay, Sheriff, get the spoon.
The spoon?
Yeah, I'm ready to take my medicine.
And so over Bullwinkle falls the ugly shadow of guilt. Don't fail to see our next heart-rending episode, Knock on Wood, or Bullwinkle Takes the Rap. While in the mystery of the disappearing TV antennas, it looks as if Bullwinkle Moose is the first victim. Assigned to stand guard over a decoy antenna, Bullwinkle ran face to face with what seemed to be a 6-foot metal mouse. The meeting lasted only a few seconds, and then Bullwinkle slept soundly until morning. Of course, when he woke up, he found it impossible to tell anybody about it.
Mainly because I don't believe it myself.
Well, I've got no other course than to take you in for questioning, Bullwinkle.
Oh, I don't mind questions, Sheriff, right? It's answering I can't do.
Gee, it looks as if Frostbite Falls has lost its TV permanently.
True enough, the town's television sets had been off for some days now. Most people still sat in front of them in the evening, but a few families had begun to adjust to the situation. Some used their sets as aquariums, some raised flowers in them.
You want to watch the daisies tonight, Myrtle?
No, turn to Channel 7, Humphrey. It's got petunias.
Nevertheless, most people found they just couldn't get along without their television.
Come back. Please, come back.
But at that moment in the boardroom of the Knit-Nat Network, there was an emergency meeting going on, presided over by their chairman, Quincy Flogg.
Gentlemen, we face a dire emergency. TV antennas are disappearing all over the country.
You mean people can't watch the programs?
Worse than that, even. They can't watch the commercials.
What?
Yes, we're pitching, but they're not catching.
And Quincy Flogg pointed to the map of all the television antennas in the country. As the startled members watched, they could see them disappearing before their very eyes.
We're being wiped out.
We face the fight of our lives, gentlemen, but we'll win.
Of course, the NitNat Network immediately set guards over its broadcasting transmitters located high atop Mount Filbert.
This is silly if you ask me, Edgar. Who'd ever come clear up to this mountaintop just to...
Now, there's something you don't see every day, Chauncey.
What's that, Edgar?
A 6-foot metal mouse.
Oh, I don't know. These woods are full of mice.
But this mouse was a little bit different from most mice, for he went direct to the transmitter and began to bite huge chunks out of the steel tower. In a matter of minutes, the NitNat Network was off the air. Of course, the two guards soon found themselves behind bars.
Why are you here, Chauncey?
I wouldn't tell them what happened. I figured they wouldn't believe it.
Oh?
Why are you here?
I told them. They didn't.
But the NitNat Network wasn't the only one hit. In the days that followed, tower after tower was demolished. What was worse, people all over the country began to slip back into their old-fashioned evening habits, catching fireflies, playing the mandolin. Some people even began to go to bed early. That's why, a little while later...
As your senator, I can tell you that people all over this fair land demand action.
Yeah!
Truly, this is a task worthy of the greatest mind of the country.
That's right.
The most courageous heart.
That's right.
The most stalwart champion of the people.
You mean...
Yes, I mean Rocket J. Squirrel.
Oh.
Don't worry, folks. I promise I won't fail you.
But even as Rocky spoke, a nearby iron lamppost trembled, tilted, and began to fall directly toward him. Don't miss our next episode, A Knock for the Rock, or The Lamp is Low. Well, the problem of the nation's disappearing TV may be solved after all, for Senator Shunpike has just appointed our hero, Rocky, to be in charge of the investigation.
Hey!
Thank you, and I'll do my best to track down the culprit.
It looked as if it might be a short track, though, for at that moment an iron lamppost trembled, tilted, and toppled over right at Rocky. Fortunately for our hero, Senator Shunpike chose that same moment to begin his farewell address.
And now, friends, I must bid you adieu as...
Boy, when he says adieu, he really does.
Congratulations, Senator. Best speech you ever made.
As the senator was whisked away on a stretcher, Rocky and Bullwinkle examined the fallen lamppost.
No doubt about it, Bullwinkle. This post was bitten clear through.
True.
But who could have done it?
A beaver?
Through an iron post.
An eager beaver.
No, it has to be some unknown creature.
Yeah, like that 6-foot mouse I saw t'other night.
6-foot mouse.
Sure.
And Bullwinkle finally told Rocky about his meeting a few nights before with a huge metal mouse. A mouse that immediately sent him to dreamland.
But why didn't you tell me before?
I didn't think you'd believe me.
I don't, but it sure helps the plot. Well, now how can we catch him?
How about a mousetrap like this?
No, that's too small. But hey, Bullwinkle, you got it.
Ooh, not really. It's got me.
No, listen.
So a little while later, following Rocky's plan, the boys had constructed a huge mousetrap, big enough to catch a 6-foot mouse.
Boy, I'd hate to have my pinkies caught in that thing.
Now where'll we put it?
After a lot of thought, our heroes wheeled their monster mousetrap to an old house surrounded by a high wall on the outskirts of town.
But nobody's lived in there for years, Rock.
Sure, so it ought to be full of mice.
And maybe one of them is 6 foot tall, huh?
Right. Now you put the bait in the trap.
Bait?
Sure. I brought along a little snack for that metal muncher.
Snack? Rock, that there is a 200-pound, you'll pardon the expression, dumbbell.
Well, I figure he won't be able to resist it.
Okay, I'll put it on the trigger.
Don't drop it, Bullwinkle.
Drop it? You must think I'm a plenty clumsy oaf.
No, I don't.
Well, I am. Look out!
And as Bullwinkle fell, the dumbbell flew through the air and landed on the trigger. And Rocky, caught by the crossbar, was sent hurtling through the air.
Rocky, are you all right?
But an ominous silence hung over the old house.
Be hurt? I gotta get in there.
And the mighty moose hurled himself at the high iron gates. Alas, they held fast. He then cut down a small tree and fashioned a crude vaulting pole to get over the wall. But he hadn't figured on the softness of the marshy ground around Bleakley Mansion.
Oh, Baz Faz.
Then, after exhausting every other possibility, Bullwinkle began to think. The strain was terrific.
Ooh.
And impossible though it seemed, he got an idea.
The mousetrap, that's what.
Yes, in a twinkling, Bullwinkle had reset the mousetrap, perched himself on the end of the crossbar, and tossed a pebble at the trigger.
Boy, that was a keen idea.
Yes, it was a marvelous idea, except for one thing.
What's that? What's that?
Well, obviously the window was too small for Bullwinkle to go through.
Yeah, obviously.
Well, will Bullwinkle be able to extricate himself?
I will as soon as I get loose.
And what has happened to Rocky? Don't miss our next episode, Window Panes or the Moose Trap. Well, last time, you remember, we learned the details of the fiendish plot of the metal-munching mice to take over the entire USA.
It's easy. We just get rid of television. Then everybody leaves country in disgust. Is our scorched air policy.
We also learned that the big cheese, leader of all the mice, is none other than that scurvy scoundrel, Boris Badenov.
The biggest threat of all.
And what of our heroes?
Yeah, what?
Captured by the mice, they have been turned over to the tender mercies of Herman the Vermin Exterminator.
You gotta think of a way out of this mess, Rocky.
I can't, Bullwinkle. I'm too low in my mind.
Oh, say not so, Rocket. How come?
Well, just look at these pictures the big cheese gave us. His plan is working. People are leaving the country in droves.
Some of them in trains, too.
Oh, Bullwinkle, look there in the courtyard.
Why, it's that giant mousetrap we built.
Yeah, and I got a hunch it's going to be used pretty soon.
Well, you know the old saying, build a better mousetrap. And you're liable to wind up in it.
Funny thing about these pictures, Rock.
What's that, Bullwinkle?
I can't read the names on any of them.
Bullwinkle, you're right. That's not even English.
Well, that's good. I thought my eye pans were going back on me.
Those pictures weren't taken in America. People aren't leaving the country.
Nobody but us, huh?
We gotta figure a way out of this, Bullwinkle.
Like I said some time back. But how?
And indeed it seemed difficult, for at that moment Herman the Vermin Exterminator lumbered forward to spring the trap.
Well, goodbye, old pal. We've sure had some swell adventures together.
Yeah. I wonder how this one will come out after we're gone.
But amazingly enough, just as Herman reached forward, he slowed and stopped.
Bullwinkle, he's run down.
In a twinkling, the boys had freed themselves from their bonds.
Now, let's get out of here.
But though our boys didn't know it, they were under observation from a high window by the big cheese himself, Boris Badenov.
Quick, Natasha, they're loose.
What happened to Herman, darling?
You didn't wind him tight enough, honey bun. Quick, we must catch them.
And Boris and Natasha dashed into an adjoining room full of 6-foot mice and began to wind them up. And so as the boys started out of the courtyard...
Uh-oh, Rock. We got company.
And I don't think he's gonna run down.
As the huge creature grabbed at him, Bullwinkle barely escaped, but Rocky wasn't so lucky.
Golly, he's got me cornered.
It looked bad for our hero, but Bullwinkle's flight had jogged a little more motion out of Herman the Vermin Exterminator, for he reached forward and completed springing the trap right in the mouse's tail.
Raskolnikov, squirrel has charmed life, Natasha. Why don't we have luck like that?
Maybe he has a good fairy, darling.
Good fairy, good fairy. Why is there never bad fairy?
Well, our boys made it to the back gate and were just a few steps from freedom when Rocky suddenly stopped short.
Pray tell, why are you stopping short, Rocky?
You ever try to stop long?
But we're almost there.
Bullwinkle, we're not running away.
We're not?
No.
Then how come I'm all out of breath?
Well, you go on if you want to, Bullwinkle, but I'm going back to Bleakley Mansion.
Okay, Rock, anything you say.
Gee, you're brave, Bullwinkle.
Yeah, I bet I'm the bravest coward in these parts.
And peering out of his tower window, Boris could hardly believe his eyes.
Look, Natasha, the flies are coming back into the spider web, all by themselves. Oh, Natasha, maybe there is bad fairy after all.
Well, is there? We'll find out next time in Big Cheese Boris, or I'd Rather Be Rat. Well, it seems that our heroes are leaping from the frying pan into the fire, for they are actually returning to Bleakley Mansion, hideout of the dreadful 6-foot metal-munching mechanical mice.
Duty's calling us, Bullwinkle.
I'm a little hard of hearing myself.
High on the roof, the big cheese, alias Boris Badenov, had already spotted them.
Let's give them old-fashioned Badenov welcome.
How's that, darling?
We throw flowers.
Throw flowers?
Still in pots, of course.
And the scurvy sneak hurled a large urn down at our friends. Fortunately, the quick-witted squirrel saw it coming.
Bullwinkle. There's a great big flower pot coming down right at your...
Oh!
Head.
You're a fast thinker, Rock, but you're kind of a slow talker.
However, since the flower pot had struck Bullwinkle squarely on the head, little damage had been done.
I don't know. That pot's never going to be the same again.
In a moment, our heroes found themselves in the kitchen of Bleakley Mansion.
Now to plan our attack, Bullwinkle.
Attack? How are we going to attack a 6-foot mouse that bites through metal?
Well, it looked as if our boys might have the chance to find out, for in the room above them, Boris and Natasha were busy winding up a whole platoon of the monsters.
Got control set, Natasha?
Yes, darling.
Okay, you little nippers, go get them.
And the mechanical mice moved toward the kitchen door. Inside, our heroes were still thinking frantically.
Bullwinkle, we gotta come up with an answer.
I got one.
What is it, Bullwinkle?
Vienna, Austria in 1758.
That's the answer?
Yes.
What's the question?
I don't know. Sure is a keen answer, though.
Not to our problem, it's not.
Oh, that.
How do you beat a metal munching mechanical mouse?
Easy. I'll just take this iron poker, and I'll walk right up to all of them, and I'll
what?
pull back an iron stump.
Close the door, Bullwinkle.
And the moose slammed the kitchen door on the intruder and braced himself against it.
Those monsters will eat anything.
That's it, Bullwinkle. They'll eat anything.
You notice kind of the echo in here?
I'm gonna cook up something special.
Rocky, if you flipped your goggles, they're gonna come busting through that door any minute.
Don't worry, we'll be ready.
And Rocky set to work in the kitchen while Bullwinkle held the door against the attack of the ravenous mechanical mice.
Hurry, Rock, they're munching right through the door.
Hold on, Bullwinkle. The caramels are almost cool.
Caramels?
They're for the mice.
I always knew you were good-hearted, Rock, but this is ridiculous.
Okay, Bullwinkle, stand aside.
As Bullwinkle stepped back, the 6-foot mice poured into the room. Quickly, Rocky gathered up an armful of caramels, and as the mice crashed after him, began to toss them back at his pursuers, who snapped at them furiously.
Oh, my plan is working.
Yes, the plan had worked. After crunching down on those chewy caramels, the huge mice could no longer open their mouths to bite anything. Powerless to attack our friends, they beat a hasty retreat.
They're going, Bullwinkle. Now let's find out where they came from. What's the matter, Bullwinkle? Can't cut your tongue?
Not cut. They're caramel.
Boy, this is sure going to cut down on the dialogue.
In a room not far away, Boris and Natasha were inspecting the mice.
They're ruined, Natasha.
They can't bite anybody, Boris.
Bite? They couldn't even gum anybody.
We will have to overhaul them, darling.
Tot, honey bun. Plenty more where this came from.
You mean?
Yes, look there.
Sure enough, far above the house was a... Well, good heavens, that's a spaceship.
You were expecting maybe seagulls?
But what...
It's time to go now.
But...
Anyway, be with us next time for the Space Rat.
Or of Mice and Menace.
Yes, you do that. Well, last time our heroes were one up on the mysterious metal-munching mechanical mice. For Rocky fed them some chewy caramel and they couldn't open their mouths to bite anything.
Always somebody's got to gum up the works.
But Boris Badenov, alias the Big Cheese, wasn't too worried.
There's always more where they come from.
And where did they come from? Apparently from the strange-looking craft which was slowly settling to the ground next to the mansion.
Bullwinkle, that looks like a spaceship.
Yeah, probably 'cause it is.
And as our heroes watched in amazement, the spaceship began to unload a cargo of monstrous mechanical mice.
You know what this means, Bullwinkle?
It means we're gonna run out of cheese in a hurry.
No, it means the fiendish plot against the country may succeed after all.
What plot is that?
Bullwinkle, haven't you been following the story?
Well, it's tough to follow it and be in it at the same time, Rock.
Okay, fill 'em in, will ya?
Well, the fiendish plot is this. Boris Badenov, alias the Big Cheese, is importing mechanical metal-munching mice from some mysterious place or other and sending them out at night to destroy television antennas all over the country.
Oh, boy, I could see it now. TV sets all go dark. People got nothing to do, get bored. Everybody goes to some other country to watch Late Late Show.
Then we take over a whole deserted US of A.
Just imagine, Natasha, being only people in town like New York City, parking backwards in middle of one-way street,
Shooting slingshot at pigeons in park.
drawing mustaches on pictures of pretty girls,
Throwing custard pies at statues in park.
betting baseballs through windows of UN building.
We could even sell Brooklyn Bridge.
Again, you mean? It will be just, you'll pardon the expression, heavenly.
Is first-class fiendish plot, darling.
Should be. Is disapproved by Bad Housekeeping magazine.
And the two villains set to work to wind up the fearsome creatures for the terrible task ahead. Meanwhile, our heroes were watching the mechanical mice disembark from the strange craft.
If we could just find out where they come from.
From that spaceship.
Yeah, but where does it come from?
That's your question.
Well, let's sneak up on it and see.
And our friends drew nearer and nearer the spaceship. Unaware that eyes were watching them, they approached alone and unprotected.
Yeah, how come we never got a gang on our side, Rock?
Well, you can't be a hero if you got a gang with you.
It might be nice just once to be a safe coward.
Back in Bleakley Manor, Boris and Natasha had wound up their wind-up job.
Darling, spaceship is ready to go.
And Boris quickly slipped on his disguise as the Big Cheese, leader of the mechanical mice.
Do I look like rat, Natasha?
Of course, darling. To me, you always look like rat.
Flatterer.
And the disguised Boris made his way to the ship. Unfortunately for our heroes, he and they arrived at the same time.
Bullwinkle, it's the Big Cheese. Let's go.
Right!
Not that way, this way.
You mean towards him?
But he's all alone.
Couldn't we leave it like that?
But Bullwinkle conquered his urge to flee and dashed toward the Big Cheese. Of course, being a coward as well as a sneak, Boris turned tail and ran for his life.
Hey, you in the ship, save me, save me!
And as if in answer to Boris's frantic cry, a strange weapon emerged from the odd-looking craft, leveled at our friends, and fired. Don't miss our next episode, The Shot Heard Round the World, or The First National Bang. Last time, you remember, our heroes were creeping up on a strange-looking spaceship when they came upon the leader of those monstrous mechanical mice.
Bullwinkle, a Big Cheese.
I wish you wouldn't say those things so close together.
Coward that he was, the Big Cheese turned and ran with our heroes right after him. It was then that a strange-looking weapon emerged from the spaceship, aimed and fired.
They got me, Rock!
No, Bullwinkle.
They got you?
No.
Him?
Him.
Sure enough, it appeared that the Big Cheese had been stopped cold by the mysterious ray.
He makes a nice-looking statue, don't he?
Yeah, sort of a V-Mouse to Milo.
Hey, Bullwinkle, he's been scrooched.
Been what?
Scrooched.
Oh, fiddle faddle, Rock. Only Moon Men can scrooge people.
Sure, and just where do we find Moon Men?
On the moon. Or in spaceships, or... Yeah, funny how that works out.
Hey, Moon Men, come on out.
We friend of Moon Man. We dig 'em moon cats. We talk straight, you bet 'em.
Why the Indian chatter, Bullwinkle?
Bullwinkle, I think that voice belongs to our old buddy Cloyd, the Moon Man.
And don't forget me.
And that's his pal, Gidney.
Well, I'll be jiggered. Come on out, you fellas.
We are out, Bullwinkle, see?
Which one are you?
I'm Cloyd, see?
Of course. I remember you by the mustache.
But I don't have a mustache.
That's what I remember.
And this is Gidney.
Sure, I'd know those eyeballs anywhere.
But what are you doing down here?
We just brought another shipment of moon mice, Rocky.
Gee, Bullwinkle, they're the ones behind this whole sinister plot.
So Rocky told the two moon men of the terrible damage being done by the monstrous mechanical moon mice as they chewed up acres of TV antennas.
Oh, dear, that's dreadful, Rocky.
We had no idea they were going to be used this way.
Well, let's go talk to the Big Cheese, Gidney.
Don't you remember, Cloyd? You scrooched him.
Yeah, he's stiffer than a boiled shirt.
Still?
No, you're so quick on the trigger, Cloyd.
Yeah.
Well, we'll just have to wait for him to get unscrewed.
And our friends began their vigil, little realizing that they were waiting in front of a cardboard cutout, and the Big Cheese,
Or as we know him, Boris Bedinov.
was even now readying his mechanical monsters for another attack.
They're still waiting, Natasha?
Yes, Boris. Darling, do you always carry cardboard cutout with you?
Doesn't everybody?
What city do we black out tonight, darling?
Let's pick one scientifically.
And Boris seized a dart, closed his eyes, and tossed it at the wall map.
And what is the name of our honor city?
Podunk Junction, darling.
Okay, I'll tell the troops. Now hear this, you rats. This is Big Cheese squeaking. Target for tonight is Podunk Junction. Got it? Get it.
And in a moment, before the startled eyes of our friends, flowed a veritable stream of monstrous mechanical metal-munching moon mice.
They're on the loose again, Bullwinkle.
And so's the Big Cheese, Rocky. Look at this.
We've been tricked.
Well, now what?
We gotta stop those metal-munching mice is what?
But how?
Come on, we'll take the shortcut and head them off.
Where do we head 'em off?
Oh, Gidney, where does anybody head anybody off?
At
the pass!
Sure enough, a few moments later, our friends were bracing themselves in the middle of the pass, waiting for the onrushing horde of 6-foot moon mice.
We gotta fight them to the end, Bullwinkle.
Yeah, and I got news for you, Rocky.
What's that?
This is the end.
True. But what's next time for the Rat Pack attacks or share up, you mouse?
Last time, you remember, that foul fiend, Boris Badenov, had unleashed another mechanical mouse attack on an American town.
And what is our honor city, Natasha?
Podunk Junction, darling.
Okay, you rats, seek 'em.
But as the metal-munching moon mice started off on their grisly journey, they were spotted by Rocky and Bullwinkle and the two moon men, Gidney and Cloyd.
We didn't know our moon mice would be used this way, Rocky.
No, cross my hearts.
Hearts? You got more than one?
On the moon, we always carry a spare heart.
Must be nice come Valentine's Day.
Never mind that. We gotta head 'em off.
Of course, there was only one place to head them off.
At the pass!
And so, a short time later, our heroes stood in the middle of the narrow pass awaiting the onrushing horde of metal monsters.
Listen to that, Bullwinkle.
Oh, the patter of tiny feet.
They'll be on us in a minute. Remember, they shall not pass.
Us.
Yeah, us.
Nearer and nearer drew the mice, but at the last minute, something odd happened.
Bullwinkle, they're taking another road.
They're past us already.
Doggone, never happens like this in the cowboy pictures.
Sure enough, the mice had taken the express highway instead of the pass, and in a little while descended on the little town of Podunk Junction unopposed. Quickly, they began their vicious work of devouring all the TV antennas in town. Program after program went off the air. The boxing matches stopped.
There's a right and a left, and the champion is down. And it's 6, 7, 8.
No, you mustn't go. Come back.
The late evening variety shows were affected.
And now, here's the star of our show.
What happened, Humbert?
I guess he walked out again.
In a remarkably short time, the entire city of Podunk Junction was without television of any kind. Lights began to flash on in darkened living rooms. People could actually see each other, some for the first time in months.
Why, Humbert, you've grown a mustache.
Don't you know me, Dad? I'm Orville.
Orville, how you've grown, son.
Back at the pass, our friends, of course, were feeling sad indeed.
Let's face it, fellas, we failed miserably.
Yeah, and that's the worst way.
How are we ever going to get rid of those mice?
As long as the big cheese controls them, we haven't got a chance.
We could sure use one of them Pied Piper fellas.
Bullwinkle, that's it.
I did it again, huh?
You sure did. We'll advertise for a Pied Piper to get rid of the moon mice.
The Pied Piper, that's silly.
Kind of far-fetched, isn't it, Rocky?
Looky here. If we can believe in moon mice, you can believe in Pied Pikers.
I guess you're right.
And so a short time later, a remarkable ad appeared in the Frostbite Falls Picayune Ledger.
Wanted, Pied Piper to get rid of moon mice.
Make big money.
Whistle while you work.
I still think it's nonsense, Rocky. We'll never get a Pied Piper.
Not even offering a great big reward?
Allow me to introduce myself. Rofan Rats Chase 'em off at your service.
Rough-on Rats chase 'em off.
Ah, you heard of me.
Are you a real piper?
Am I a real piper? Observe.
And Burroughs quickly drew out a pipe and blew several smoke rings.
Well, I guess he's a genuine piper, all right.
Okay, Mr. Chase-em-off. We'll pay you $1 for every mechanical metal-munching moon mouse you pipe away from here.
Just leave it to me, kiddo. Oh, Boris, baby, your plan is paying off. There's millions in it, millions.
Oh, dear. Is Rocky going to make a millionaire out of his worst enemy? We'll find out next time in Bucks for Boris or Rocky Pays the Piper. Well, in a last-ditch effort to stop the monstrous mechanical metal-munching moon mice, our heroes put an ad in the paper.
Wanted, high-class Pied Piper to get rid of monstrous mechanical metal-munching moon mice.
Name your own price.
The ad got results sooner than they expected.
Rofan Rats Chase 'em off at your service.
The piper looked a lot like Boris Badenov, but as usual, our trusting friends failed to suspect a thing.
Please, the world needs trusting people.
It does?
Otherwise, who could us villains cheat?
Boris blew a few smoke rings to prove he was a real piper, but Gidney the Moon Man still wanted to know.
How good are you at getting rid of rats?
Please, read motto.
Rats a specialty.
It takes one to know one.
Okay, Mr. Chase-em-off. We'll give you $1 for every moon mouse you pipe away from here.
It's a deal, little chum.
And Boris dashed off to his secret headquarters where a whole regiment of the metal-munching monsters stood ready to go.
This is the day.
What day is that, darling?
Payday.
Meanwhile, our heroes were surprised and pleased to see Boris apparently piping away a whole line of moon mice.
Boy, he does good work.
Yeah, and here he comes again already.
Sure enough, Boris led another line of moon mice by our heroes, and a few moments later, still another.
You know, Bullwinkle, those mice are all beginning to look alike.
Well, if you've seen one moon mouse, you've seen them all.
But Rocky had guessed better than he knew, for Boris was simply leading his moon mice in a large circle and taking the same ones back again and again. At the end of the day, Rocky added up the Pied Piper's bill.
Gee, we owe you close to $6,000.
That's a nice number to be close to.
But it's worth it if it means the end of the moon mice.
Well, you know me, all work guaranteed.
Flushed with success, our heroes erected a TV antenna on the roof to the cheers of the populace.
Yay!
I thought you said your work was guaranteed.
But I didn't say positively.
Gee, there must be more of those moon mice than I thought.
How many did we bring down, Gidney?
About 100,000.
100,000?
Let's see, at $1 apiece.
That's almost $1,000.
It's $100,000, Bullwinkle.
Well, I was close.
Gee, we don't have that much money.
I don't even think there is that much money.
Take it or leave it, buddy.
Guess we gotta leave it.
Don't worry, you'll be back.
Why'd you fellas bring all these mice down here for anyways?
It wasn't our idea, Bullwinkle.
No, Mr. Big said they were going to be used as messengers.
Well, a lot he knows about...
Mr. Big?
You're interrupting, Rock.
But you didn't hear what
Mr. Big!
You know him?
Know him?
And our heroes told the Moon Men of their terrible experiences with the sinister, shadowy figure of Boris's boss, Mr. Big, who turned out to be not so big after all. The last they'd seen of him was when he tried to steal a chunk of the anti-gravity metal, upsidasium, and fell upward into space.
I know, Rocky. He made a dead center hit on a moon crater.
And right away he started to take over.
You want us to take you to our leader?
Don't be silly, boys. I am your leader.
Today, Mr. Big is really big.
Well, I guess that means we're whipped.
How come that, Rock?
Well, how can we fight somebody who's clear up on the moon?
And as our friends gazed skyward, the face of the man in the moon seemed to take on the sinister features of that criminal mastermind, Mr. Big. Don't miss our next episode, Fright Flight, or A Rocky to the Moon. Well, in the dramatic story of the monstrous mechanical metal-munching moon mice, our cast of characters grows and grows. On the one side are our heroes, Rocky and Bullwinkle, and their friends, Gidney and Cloyd, the Moon Men. On the other side, there are 100,000 moon mice.
Count them, 100,000.
Plus their leader, the Big Cheese.
Alias Boris better, no?
And the arch-fiend behind the whole scheme, direct from the moon, Mr. Big himself.
Hello there, fans.
Mr. Big's plot was fiendishly simple.
But I explain anyway. It goes something like this. The mouse A eats the TV antenna B. Then the viewer C gets disgusted and leaves for some other country, D, where he can watch the Late Late Show. E. Then we move in and take over the whole country.
And what letter is that?
What else? USA.
So far, his plan is working just fine, and our heroes are feeling very low.
Gee, I'm feeling very low.
Yeah, you tell.
'Cause I'm facing my TV set and it's bust.
Oh, cheer up, Rock. Looky, I found my old ukulele. Let me regale you with a ditty.
No thanks, Bullwinkle.
On Lulu, baby, where'd you get them eyes and that sweet complexion that I like?
Please, Bullwinkle!
Oh, well, maybe you prefer come along to Auntie Skinner's chicken dinner. We want no picnic.
Enough already! Well, Rocky, this certainly proves one thing.
What's that?
There are some things worse than no television.
But if Cloyd could have been outside the house at that moment...
And you know that I am.
He would have seen a fearsome sight.
Oh, for Earth's sake! We're surrounded by moon mice!
Sure enough, it looked as if the moon mice were moving in for the kill, led, of course, by the Big Cheese himself, Boris Bennett. Boris... why, he isn't here. We'd better check out at the old Bleakley place.
Darling, what are you doing here in this empty room?
I'm suffering.
But why?
Natasha, we're ruined.
Oh, nonsense, darling. Not so long as we control moon mice.
That's just it, we don't.
Don't?
Don't. They ran out on me.
How could it was, Boris? They are just machines.
I don't know, but I find out, you bet.
And following the tracks of the fierce metal-munching monsters, Boris and Natasha soon came across them as they clustered around Rocky and Bullwinkle's little home. From inside the house came a strange sound.
Oh, bless you and keep you, Mother Macri.
Boris, take off your hat.
Why?
I think someone is dying in there.
Well, Natasha was almost right.
Rocky, I can't stand much more of that.
Cheer up, Kidney. He only knows a few more.
But just then, Cloyd faded in with his startling news.
Rocky, Bullwinkle, outside. Moon mice. Thousands of them.
Moon mice?
Listen, what's that sound?
Sounds like they're gnashing their teeth.
They must be pretty hungry.
Oh, this is awful. Quick, Bullwinkle, call the sheriff.
Sheriff!
On the phone, I mean.
All right, Rock. Hello, Griselda. Give me the... Hello? Hello?
Save your breath, Bullwinkle. Look here.
Sure enough, just outside the window, an enormous moon mouse was just devouring the phone wire like a piece of spaghetti.
All right, fellas, let's stick together now.
We'll sell our lives dearly.
Kidney, this is no time to talk business.
And our friends huddled together for a last-ditch stand. Don't miss our next laugh-filled episode.
Laugh-filled?
Yeah, it's a scream.
Bullwinkle bellows again, or moonin' low. Last time, you remember, Bullwinkle's ukulele concert was interrupted by the appearance of thousands of monstrous moon mice, who began to close in on our friends until they were surrounded on all sides.
There's another way to be surrounded.
On the outskirts of the mob of moon mice were Boris and Natasha, who seemed to have lost control over the fearsome creatures.
What you're doing, darling?
I'm checking wiring on this one, Natasha. Crossover terminal here, overload plate there.
Where does this wire go, darling?
Natasha, please, that may be live wire.
How do I know if it's live wire?
Well, if you touch it like this and it goes...
Boris! Oh, dear. Now I'll never know if it's live or not.
Meanwhile, behind their barricades, our heroes were still determined to fight to the finish against overwhelming odds.
How about a keen fight song, fellas?
Do you have to?
Fight, fight, fight for frostbite high. Flang our colors to the sky.
What colors, Bullwinkle?
Pomegranate and puce. Cheer and cheer and cheer again. Fight with might, but mostly main.
If it's all the same to you, Bullwinkle, I'd rather have the moon mice.
It was Monstrous mechanical mice did a remarkable thing.
Bullwinkle, they're applauding.
I can't think why.
Sure enough, the moon mice seemed entranced by Bullwinkle's song.
Rocky, they're not here as a menace.
No?
They're here as an audience.
A friendly audience.
That means Bullwinkle must be able to control them with his voice.
Bullwinkle, you're an honest-to-goodness Pied Piper.
With my own set of pipes, too.
You're a regular Elvis Pretzel.
Meantime, Natasha was trying to revive a shocked Boris.
Out goes the good air. In comes the bad. Out goes...
Pardon me, miss, but isn't that out goes the bad air, in comes the good?
Darling, Boris hates anything good.
Yeah, so shut up, you mouth, wise guy.
Sorry.
Boris, you're your nasty old self again.
Natasha, we got to get control of moon mice back again.
Right. What are mice doing now, darling?
Listen closely.
Oh, bury me not on the lone prairie.
Boris, they're crazy about mooses singing.
Well, two can play at that game. Natasha, hand me my belly like and my big cheese disguise.
Yeah, darling.
Ahem. Me.
And then began one of the strangest battles of all time, a musical contest to capture the affection of 100,000 moon mice.
You ain't nothing but the moon mouse. Munching all the time. Yep,
Come along to Auntie Skinner's chicken dinner, the one who picks a wishbone.
All I ask is don't step on my blue suede tail.
There must be little cupies in the briny. There must be little cupies in the sea.
You're my little high school moon mouse.
Bullwinkle, look! Your audience is leaving you.
Looks like your singing career's over already.
Man, that was the shortest career I ever had.
Yes, the moon mice were leaving the boys' cottage and heading right for Boris.
Looks like you've won, darling.
What I told you, Natasha. You can't keep a good rat down.
Well, it seems Bullwinkle has sprained his tonsils for nothing at all.
Yeah.
The moon mice are going back to Boris.
Yeah.
And the whole country is obviously doomed.
Well, that's showbiz.
Don't miss our next exciting episode, Bongo Boris or the Hep Cat.
That's Hep Rat.
Well, it looked for a while as if our friends had gained some advantage in the Battle of the Moon Mice. Bullwinkle's singing... had attracted thousands of the fearsome metal-munching monsters.
Daddy wouldn't buy me a bow wow.
But he had immediate competition in the form of the leader of the Moon Mice, the Big Cheese, who seized a balalaika and sang some songs of his own.
Rockabilly like, oh, oh, oh.
Keep it up, darling. They're coming this way.
Hear it in the morning, hear it in the noon, hear it in the night time. Moon, moon, moon. Oh, hey, 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 oh.
Darling.
Yes, Nitesh.
When you sing like that, why do you go ooh, ooh, ah, ah?
Why else? I get sick.
Well, here they come. You ready to sign autographs?
You said it, Natasha. Okay, you lucky rats. Step right up and... Oh, boy. You don't want my autograph.
Darling, I think they want you.
Sure enough, the disguised Boris was hustled off by the furious moon mice, and a moment later found himself in a nearby duck pond up to his neck in trouble.
And water.
The angry moon mice might have finished our story right there if a strange sound hadn't come through the air.
My sweetheart's the moose in the moon. I'm going to marry her soon.
Keep it up, Bullwinkle. They're coming back.
Good. 'Twould give me such bliss just to give her one kiss. But I know that 100 I never would miss.
It's working. They're all back.
I'll go up in a great big balloon.
Is that a promise?
And marry that moose in the moon. Why are they applauding now?
You said moon.
So?
Up there, that's like saying Brooklyn.
Oh, and behind some dark cloud where no one is allowed.
Allowed what?
It don't say. I'll make love to the moose in the moon.
Sing some more, Bullwinkle.
I don't know any more tunes, Rock.
Hooray!
Well, you better think of some fast.
How come?
I think the natives are getting restless.
Sure enough, deprived of their singing star, the mice were beginning to turn ugly.
And that's not much of a tune.
Quick, sing something, Bullwinkle.
3 blind mice, 3 blind mice.
Not that, Bullwinkle. Don't you remember the middle part?
About cutting off their tails, you mean?
Oh, now you've done it. Pick another song before we're munched.
But, Rocky, I gotta rest my tonsils sometime.
But that's such a fierce-looking mob.
And they're closing in.
Boy, we could sure use a smart manager along about now.
Aha! Allow me to introduce myself, you.
Who are you?
My cat.
Colonel Tomsk Parkoff, showbiz manager.
Teenage Idol's a specialty.
Audience is controlled.
Well, what have we got to lose?
Just my voice is all.
Now, look here, all you music-loving rats. You all want to hear your teenage idol sing, don't you? All right, well, we're gonna hold a great big old concert in what's the name of place?
Colossus Stadium, Colonel Darling.
In Colossus Stadium, Colonel Darling. And all you mice is going in free. How about?
Boris, you're out of your mind.
They go in the easy way. They come out the hard way.
So that's Boris's explosive plan. You'll see how it works out next time in The Spies of Life, or When a Fella Needs a Fiend. Well, Bullwinkle's new manager, Colonel Tomsk Parkoff, who is really Boris in disguise, is fixing things for Bullwinkle's first concert for Moon Mice at Colossus Stadium.
And the first thing we fix is you.
What's the matter?
You got to have glamour, son.
Glamour?
Like this.
And the Colonel dressed Bullwinkle in a sequin jacket with neon lapels, gave him a pair of snakeskin shoes with cerise laces, bleached his hair blonde, and combed it into a pompadour.
And just before you go on, we spray your antlers with gold paint.
I don't know about that. I wouldn't want to look conspicuous.
A few minutes later, our boys arrived at the enormous saucer shape of Colossus Stadium. It was already jam-packed with moon mice.
And now, Mr. Golden Throat, a present from your fans.
What is it, Colonel Tomsk?
Electric ukulele.
Thanks a mil, Colonel Tomsk.
Let me plug it in for you. It's the least I can do.
Boris, darling, you flipped.
Don't you believe it?
And opening a door in one of the columns that supported the huge stadium, Boris revealed a frightful sight.
Darling, he's full of TNT.
And so is this one.
And so is this one.
Whole stadium is regular living bomb.
How is it wired to go off, darling?
How else? Look.
You mean?
Yes. Moose's electric ukulele. The first chord he hits will be his last.
But won't we blow up all metal munching mice, too?
Of course, Natasha, but there's plenty more where they came from.
But at that moment on the moon, high above, Boris's superior, Mr. Big, received some startling news.
We've run out of materials, Mr. Big. There's not another moon mouse to be made.
Oh, it really doesn't matter. There's 100,000 of them down there already, and they should have finished their terrible task by now. I think I'll go down and check up.
And a few moments later, a strange-looking craft with Mr. Big inside was plunging toward the Earth. Unaware of the superior's approach, Boris and Natasha watched with their fingers in their ears while a little distance away, Bullwinkle prepared to make his debut. But just before he entered the stadium...
Did you tune your ukulele, Bullwinkle?
Shucks, no. I'll do it right now. My dog has...
Well, that's that, Natasha.
Not quite, darling. Look.
Sure enough, the TNT and the supports of the stadium acted like a series of giant rockets, and the enormous bull was flung upward into space. In just a few moments, it neared the spaceship occupied by Mr. Big. There was a sharp collision, and the saucer continued unharmed, clear to the moon. Mr. Big's ship wasn't so lucky.
Bullwinkle, you did it!
They're back on the moon.
Oh, happy day!
Oh, joy bells.
Oh, phooey.
And look who's here, darling.
You know, Badinov, a funny thing happened to me on my way to the Earth this evening.
Mr. Big.
We regret that this scene is so horrifying that it may not be shown to a family audience.
Well, Bullwinkle, the moon mouse caper is over.
The country is saved.
So how come you're so sad?
Well, I never did get to sing my song.
Well, go ahead. We'll listen, won't we, fellas?
You bet, Rocky.
Kidney, are you some kind of kook?
Look, earplugs.
Give my regards to Broadway. Remember me to Harold Square.
Who's he?
He's a friend of mine in New York. Tell all the gang
And so the curtain falls on the saga of the monstrous mechanical metal munching moon mice. Be with us next time for further adventures of Rocky, the Flying Squirrel.
Thanks for watching.